Welcome back to the Crypto Trends Podcast, where we cover all things cryptocurrency, blockchain, Web 3.0, and AI. I'm Robert Croak, and I'm joined by my co-host, Armando Pantoja. Both of us and our amazing team are excited to bring you the best information, guidance, and strategies each and every Wednesday. So follow along and always remember to take notes and take action. So before we get into talking point number one, Armando, let's talk about what happened in Nashville. What were the highlights of the conference? I have mine, you have yours. It was definitely interesting. I want to hear your side of it, and then we'll get into this.
Yeah, it was an interesting few days, right? Is that Nashville, I'm from Clarksville, about an hour outside, so I got to see some family and also got to see the updates and some of the big projects and things that are happening in Bitcoin. I noticed a lot of things that I haven't noticed. There was a great diversity of people from Europe, people from Australia. I met somebody from Japan. I saw a lot of younger people, older people. It's really interesting how Bitcoin is coming full circle, right? It's bringing in all kinds. I saw an 80-year-old man with a Bitcoin shirt on. So it's really exciting to see how it's changing the world right now. Of course, the biggest thing was Trump's speech, right? But leading into Trump's speech, we saw Robert Kennedy speak. We saw some senators speak. And this is the first time we've seen so much political involvement at these Bitcoin conferences. So it was a very interesting few days. I made a bunch of great contacts, and I'm glad I went. And I always tell people, you got to get in the room, right? If you're just there, big things start to happen in your life.
Yeah, I noticed something completely different to me, and that is I did not see the regular folks, the retail investor, the person that's just learning about crypto. I saw mostly people that were in the industry, worked for a crypto company, or that were into the political scene. So that was something that I thought was very strange, but also very promising, because if you think about it, we're not even in truly the bull market yet. Bitcoin is touching all-time highs, yet I did not see the common folk that would be investing in cryptocurrency anywhere near the conference or the events. And to me, that is a huge sign that if they're not even there yet, because I thought this was going to be a free-for-all of all walks of life, and I did not see that. Almost all the conversations I had were with people that were in tech, in the industry, or interested in seeing what Trump and Kennedy would say about crypto, because whether or not I'd love to see the betting amounts, but we don't know what percentage of what they say will actually ever happen. They're going to say whatever it takes. We don't know what percentage of what they say will actually happen. Obviously, they're going to say whatever it takes to get elected. But I did see a recent study that said something like 75% of people said they would vote on the candidate that was most likely to be best for cryptocurrency. And I think that is a key factor here in this election, because for you and I, we don't care who wins, but it certainly helps to have a candidate win that is pro-crypto and actually sees the future and the importance of it. So that was one of the things that is the biggest takeaway for me right now. When you hear us talk about Kamala Harris, Donald Trump, Kennedy, whoever it is, it does not mean that we are sponsoring them, that we are endorsing them. It simply means we are sharing with all of you our thoughts of what those candidates bring to the market and what will happen to the crypto space if one of those candidates were to win. So keep that in mind when you're watching over the coming months this podcast, because we don't care who wins. We just want what's best for the markets and for the followers and listeners of this podcast.
Yeah, I like what you said, is that we look at things as investors, right? Whatever's happening in the political scene, we try to predict what's going to happen next, and we can invest in that. You went to the conference and you noticed that retail wasn't there, right? That's why I like hanging out with you, because you see things as an investor would. And if retail's not involved, then that means that the big gains have been involved.
That's right.
And it's the same perspective that we look at politics. We don't endorse people or say this guy's better than the next. We're saying this is more likely to happen, therefore we need to invest this way. It's nothing to do with endorsing. It's nothing to do with pushing political agendas. It's just objective and trying to get the best information out to our listeners as we can.
And I think it's a great point, because you and I have both lost quite a few followers in the recent last month or so. And this is really critical for people to understand, because when we talk about this, it's for your benefit. If you choose to unfollow us because we mention a name like Trump or Harris or Kennedy, that's on you. You're missing out on us providing as much value as possible. It has nothing to do with who our favorite is. It has to do with us getting the best information out to all of you so you can win in these uncertain times and in these crypto markets. So let's go on to talking point number one. It's been circulated and it's been discussed for quite some time, but Kennedy dropped the bombshell and really brought it up heavy at the conference, and that is tax-free gains using a 1031 exchange in cryptocurrency. This has been tendered for a while, and now they are talking seriously about it. And I think it would be just an incredible situation for anyone that's in cryptocurrency that wants to get into real estate, but more importantly, for real estate investors to really then adopt crypto more so. Having a 1031 exchange opportunity with Bitcoin would just be game changing for the crypto markets and Bitcoin. It would really democratize real estate investing and give us more options, because we don't always want to sell a property and immediately buy another one, but we also don't want to pay the taxes either. So I think this would really help with mainstream adoption, and it would really help because of this non-reportable Bitcoin transactions. So let's dive into this. I think it's just really an amazing strategy, and I hope it happens no matter who becomes president. But it would allow investors to leverage this strategy to swap from one crypto investment to another, but also swap from one property into Bitcoin. So this strategy has been used for years by real estate investors, and by adding in the ability for crypto investors to be able to now mirror this and be able to use it in real estate and in crypto is just incredible. And I think it's really, the specific rules obviously aren't out there yet, but if they're going to mirror 1031 exchanges, I think it's absolutely game changing for the real estate market. I'm excited about it, but also the crypto markets as well. So this is huge news, and I'm super excited.
Yeah, we've been having a problem in our country with real estate being expensive, and a lot of people can't afford it. A lot of Generation Zs are still living at home. So this could allow some extra money to flow into real estate, and could actually bring the prices down. People can invest crypto money into new builds, new apartments, new properties, and it can allow more options for people who haven't had access to real estate right now. So I'm excited for this. And also the ability to defer the taxes also will bring new people into cryptocurrency. So I think that this 1031 plan is a great plan going forward, and I think it's going to help not only the crypto industry, but also the real estate industry.
And something for everyone to think about, because we talk about crypto and blockchain adoption. The tax code for the IRS went from 400 pages to 4,000 pages over the recent years. And if you think about that, those additional 3,600 pages were put there to give you the blueprint of how to use it to your advantage. And in my opinion, those additional pages were to allow the rich to become super rich. And that's what we're here for, is to help guide you through all of this and make sure you're aware of these latest developments so you can utilize them in your investment strategies. And that is so important to understand moving forward for people that need the guidance of what to do in the markets and how to handle that. So let's jump into talking point number 2, the Bitcoin strategies, Trump versus RFK Jr., and their impact on the crypto markets, and how crypto has now become this political ping pong match. It's incredible for crypto's adoption. It's going to be incredible for the bull run. And it's just so important to understand, as we said earlier, that not all of this is going to come true, but it doesn't matter. Just the fact of having two of the most powerful political people out there right now at the Bitcoin conference this weekend in Nashville shows where we're headed, and this is so important. You had Trump talking about the reserve proposal. Kennedy jumped in with his ambitious plan on this as well to make Bitcoin a reserve currency like gold. And this is so important because this is something a year ago we would have never thought would occur or be talked about. And even Trump followed up after the conference talking about how he felt Bitcoin would overtake gold in market cap. And just for you guys to understand this, if Bitcoin matches the market cap of gold, it's about a 10.4x from where we are right now. And that would put one Bitcoin at around $730,000 a coin. So all of this stuff, whether it's political rhetoric or it is a ping pong match just to see who can get the most favoritism in the crypto space, it's all great for us. Because remember, we always talk about we don't care who the president is because we're going to always have a workaround. And that is why you follow us. That is why you tune into the podcast, because we're going to have the information that's going to allow all of you to have that workaround. Another surprising announcement was that Trump said he'd maintain the current level of Bitcoin holdings seized by the government instead of selling them off, which is the usual protocol for assets taken from a financial criminal. And I thought this was incredible news for us because typically these seized assets are liquidated to recover funds or reallocate resources. And Trump's decision to hold on to the Bitcoin really marks a significant departure from the norm, hinting at a potential shift in how the government views and handles cryptocurrency. The long-term implications here, by choosing to hold rather than sell, the government could be signaling a recognition of Bitcoin's potential value and importance moving forward. And this might also imply a strategic interest in cryptocurrency as a more long-term asset. So I think all of this that came out of the recent couple weeks and the conference are just huge for us moving forward in the crypto space as the politicians really figure out what their message is to the voters.
Yeah, one thing about Trump is that in 2017 and early 18, Trump said that Bitcoin was a scam against the U.S. dollar. And that was pretty common among politicians. That was pretty common among CEOs of major corporations. And we've noticed in the last 4 or 5 years, they've almost all come around. Yep. And that's a really big development that's happening in the world of crypto. Now, and there's something else that Trump said at the conference is that back in 2013-14, there was a guy called Russ who was arrested for running a place called Silk Road that was on the dark web. That was the first major use case of Bitcoin. A lot of that was illegal, right? It was drug sales and other things going on, but there were also a lot of legitimate deals going on there, right? So he got arrested and he got 25 years to life for his involvement or being a founder of that dark web market. Now, at the time, that was an overkill. Right? On eBay, they've sold illegal things early on. Craigslist used to have illegal prostitution. They never went after the CEOs of those companies. So they did that back when the government was actually actively trying to stop Bitcoin. Yep. And the government actually had efforts to try to stop it or slow it down for 10 years after that. Now they're finally giving in. And this guy's still in jail. So one of the things that I started to notice or I saw at Bitcoin conference was that Trump promised to commute his sentence and pardon him as soon as he got into office. Now, most people don't know about this, but that's a big sign and a big development of how the government views Bitcoin. It went from hating it to stopping it to almost making a martyr out of the guy and going to pardon him if Trump does get elected. And I'm sure whoever gets elected is probably going to do the same thing because it's such a big move forward for Bitcoin. Now, Trump's strategy is conservative, right? And Robert Kennedy's was a little bit more aggressive, but it doesn't matter. Because now that they're talking about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, that's all that really matters, right? There's a lot of people are saying they're pandering for votes, so they're just trying to get people to vote for them. The act of having to pander for votes shows that it's an important issue. Yep. So just that they have to do this shows that Bitcoin is becoming an election issue. And that means that Bitcoin is growing, the influence is growing, and now people have to pander just to win elections. So that tells you the path and the progress of Bitcoin and where it's going into the future.
Yeah, I agree. And it is funny when you think about politicians have been pandering for votes for decades and decades. And it really does show that we're on the biggest stage in the world, in politics right now, leading up to this election, and almost all of the conversation is about cryptocurrency. So if you don't think that's a great sign for the future, no matter who wins, then you are following the wrong information, because in my opinion, it just sets us up for a much greater future for the investment into cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and into the sector as a whole, because at the end of the day, like we talked about last week, crypto gets a bad name and everyone associates that word with volatility and negativity and scams, yet the underlying blockchain that crypto is attached to is the most important change in modern history, as the internet was back when it came out. And for everyone to understand that and be able to zoom out and understand the macro market conditions around that is where the money is going to be made. And that's why we come here each and every week to share our thoughts with you on the state of the markets and what is happening next. So let's get into talking point number 3, Solana's impressive 30% gains in July as it approaches back to all-time highs and where we think it's going. So if we examine the impact of how the rise in liquid staking projects has boosted Solana's total value locked to over $5.5 billion, I think this is one great indicator of where things are going for Solana. And for us to retest those all-time highs and probably set new records is really just an indicator of the momentum around Solana. So let's go into that a little bit for our listeners, what they can expect, what we think, and give a little bit of an indication of where the Solana market is heading.
Yeah, a significant factor in the growth is the rise in liquid staking tokens, which has boosted the network over, like you said, $5.5 billion, right? And this not only shows how Solana is moving forward in the future, it shows activity on chain. And this is a great indicator of where Solana is going into the future. It suggests that Solana's network is trusted. In any blockchain in the world, it has to be trusted, and it has to have a strong community behind it in order to be successful. And this is evidence of that happening with Solana. And it's a positive sign for long-term growth.
Yeah, and if this momentum holds, we should see Solana retesting its previous highs in the 200 to 210 range very soon. And this would be a significant milestone and likely would cause us to go up from there. So I'm excited about it. It is one of my larger holdings. And I think that it's just so important for everyone to understand, while crypto markets have been sideways and up and down and very volatile even before the halving, but more so after the halving, it's important to understand that these types of projects, the Ethereums, the Solanas, the Bitcoins, and some of these bigger projects continue to move forward and continue to develop and increase all of what they're offering. And I just think it's important for everyone to understand. And that's why I think Solana is a really solid project moving forward. So let's talk about Polymarket for a minute, because I think this is another indicator that no one is looking at. And that is Polymarket has seen huge increases of the betting on the platform, and they have reached all-time highs in July for the amount of bets placed and the dollar amounts of the bets placed all around crypto and the presidential election. And I think this is a great indicator of where the markets are going, because everyone is paying attention and they're betting on it. And if they're willing to bet on it to the tune of tens and tens of millions of dollars, that means people are in the markets, they're paying attention, and they're really watching where the markets are going from a macro perspective. And I think that's another critical point I haven't heard anyone mention that I think is really good for the crypto markets and adoption moving forward.
Yeah, I think so. And I love prediction markets because, like you said, if somebody's willing to put their money on a potential outcome, they really believe in it. Prediction markets are way more likely to show the true outcomes in elections or sports than anything else, because it's not just hearsay, it's not just my opinion, because if somebody's willing to put their money down, they really believe it. So I like using prediction markets not only if I want to place a bet or whatever, but also to predict outcomes and use that in my investing. Now, I just want to talk a little bit about something that happened with the U.S. government. So After Trump's speech and all this stuff, Bitcoin started to rally. Then all of a sudden, $2 billion from a government-controlled wallet moved to an exchange. So everybody panicked. Bitcoin fell 5%. Now, this is why you shouldn't have knee-jerk reactions. We don't know why they moved it. Yep. We don't know what they're going to do with it. But a lot of times in cryptocurrency is that people see these little signs and they try to deduce that it's evidence of something bigger and they panic. So sometimes it's an opportunity to get in at cheaper prices. Sometimes it's an opportunity to buy the altcoins because they tend to fall at a deeper rate than Bitcoin. There's always an opportunity when you see things like this happen. I don't think it's nothing big. It's only $2 billion. It's not that much in the greater scope of cryptocurrency. So I think it's just overreaction. I don't think it's anything to be panicked about, but people do tend to panic when it comes to cryptocurrency.
Like we always say, when in doubt, zoom out. We are going to see endless manipulation and different price ranges, and there's going to be a lot of volatility in the coming months leading up to the election and probably right after the election as some of these things are exercised and actually implemented into the crypto space and the regulations. So it's so important for everyone. Please don't panic. Stick to your thesis because we want you to become investors, not gamblers. So that's it for today's episode, and I want to thank each and every one of you for listening and following along. You can find us on Instagram at Crypto Trends Podcast and on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. We are so excited for the rest of this year and just sharing all of our insights with all of you. And if you love the podcast, please share with a friend, give us a 5-star review, and we'll see you next week.